Hello friends and welcome to my channel, Heidi Ensemble DIY. Today is a special day because it is a mega video, or better yet, a convolution video. You are going to see spring projects in this video that are focusing on the Easter season. You're going to see carrots to religion to flowers, all sorts of different fun ideas to inspire you. All right, now let's get crafting. This project is going to be so fast, so cute, and have such fun color to it. We're going to be using this wood round, this bunny hang-up sign, and then a craft stick dowel. Go ahead and take your bunny apart from that twine that was on the back of it and remove all those staples. Once you get those all removed, go ahead and take a drill a little bit of a bigger hole where that hole already existed from that twine, and then just put that craft wood stick right down in there. That's honestly the most complicated thing about this project. We're not going to be using any other power tools. It just needed for that one thing. Now we're going to go ahead and glue on our bunny at the top of the stick, but we're going to bring back in this really cute hippity hoppity on it as well. So go ahead and glue those on. Use some fabric to help lock it into place and clean up the backside. I added a little bit of hot glue at the bottom of that wood base, and then I put on some of my Spanish moss. And now I'm just simply taking some of those Dollar Tree carrots that I just love this season. They're so much fun to work with. I'm cutting off the tip so that there are 3 different heights, and I'm just kind of twisting them down in there when I get some hot glue in that spot, and you've got yourself an adorable decor piece. This next project is so fast and so fun, don't blink. We are going to take 2 of these ball holders that you use for soccer. They're orange, a perfect carrot color, and then some fern and some long grass foliage from the Dollar Tree. Now I will say, I saw this pinned on Pinterest, but the link was a dead link where I couldn't actually get to the person who came up with this originally. I wish I could have, because I want to give credit to those who deserve to get credit for the ideas. But I wanted to share it on here. If I can find it later on down the road, I will make sure I link it in my description box. I'm pretty sure it was a TikTok person. Someone just took a picture, like a screenshot of it, and they didn't have the account name. It was such a bummer. But anyway, so you can see here, I'm just beefing up the fern, and I'm just adding in some extra green because I just think it looks nice and full and pretty. And then I'm going to wrap some twine around it to help strengthen it. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and tie a knot, make sure it's all on there nice and snug. And I will say that I decided to beef up mine a little bit more than what I saw the inspiration, because I liked it to be fuller. Now you're going to take the ball holders, the cones, you're going to snug that down into your dirt or your mulch, and then simply tuck in the greenery in that hole. And it makes a giant carrot. Is this not the cutest thing ever for your front yard? This project is going to be super whimsical. I picked up a couple of different florally napkins from Home Goods, and then I'm getting 3 of these teacups from the Dollar Tree. Start by adding some Mod Podge to your cups. We're going to do 2 of the cups that are going to be decoupage or Mod Podge with these tissue papers on here. The trick about this is that you want to make sure you're being really gentle with that tissue paper or a napkin. Now this napkin is a little bit sturdier because it's a nicer quality napkin, and you'll learn that when you buy napkins that are from a different store like Home Goods versus the Dollar Tree. You'll see the quality in the napkins are a little bit tougher where you can rub them around. But if you're working with tissue paper, definitely make sure you're tapping and being very gentle. Now I'm just adding Mod Podge all over this cup, and I'm working down that napkin to fit around that whole cup. When I get to the bottom, I just cut off the extra, and I'm just simply gluing it all down into place, making sure you can see all the details of the cup. This is going to give you that adorable teacup china look without having to hunt all over thrift stores. They're so hard to find. Everybody's collecting these little teacups, and I love teacups. So if you can't find them at your thrift stores, This is a great way to get that look. Go ahead and make sure you wrap that napkin down into the cup, and then also come around onto the handle. You can see I cut a piece down of the napkin. And then also I should point out too, sometimes the napkins have a couple of layers to them and you can peel them apart. So make sure you do that so that the napkin's not too thick and it's easy to work with. Now for the rim and for the handle, make sure you're just coming around that curve and gluing it all into place. Now for the third cup, I've decided I'm going to use one of these molds because we're going to make it a little bit different. Two are going to have that napkin tissue paper on it, and then the other one's going to be spray painted. I have this beautiful mold. I'll link it down below in the description box. But my favorite way to do this is I always like to add a little bit of flour first, and then I work in my air dry clay, and then I slowly flip it over and just kind of let it fall into my hand. Once that's in your hand, I actually like to glue it on while it's still wet because it'll allow you to be able to curve it without the wings cracking, especially on things like butterflies and birds and flowers. It's better to apply it while it's still wet so that it can curve around whatever edges you have. Now I'm just taking some E6000 and a paintbrush and I'm just working that around all over, and then I'm going to put that onto my cup. Now make sure when you go to put this down, have the cup in a nice safe place where that little mold air dry clay is not going to slide on you, because it will slide if you stand the cup up while the E6000 is still drying. Then I'm going to take some white paint and do 2 coats inside of those tissue paper or napkin cups. This is going to help bring the opaqueness up more so that you don't see through the cup since it's glass. So that's just another tip I would recommend doing, but you don't have to. I just recommend doing it because you're going to see that pattern come through on those napkins better. Now here is that cup once it was all dry from the butterfly and from the moss green Rust-Oleum spray paint. I'm going to come in and dry brush on top of that butterfly to bring out the texture in it, which is the reason why I picked that butterfly for this cup. And then I'm going to take my paint and I'm still going to just kind of lightly tap around the cup to distress it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a little stacked pile of teacups. The best way, in my opinion, when I was working on this, I found that if I put the teacup in and then took a pencil and drew a line around it, it made it so I knew where to put the glue without making a big mess with the glue, because it does get a little messy when you're trying to make these fit right and so that they are standing up nice and sturdy. Now you can see here that I'm tucking in some Spanish moss because at the very top of our teacup I'm going to put a little bird's nest. I thought that this would be so beautiful for this time of year. Something so fun and whimsical. And you really could do this for any holiday and any season. You just change out what you're putting on that middle cup and what you're putting at the top of the other cup. So now go ahead and just nestle on that third cup, making sure it's all nice and sturdy, which is the reason why we're using that pencil line so that we know where to place the cup and we're not struggling when the glue goes on. And I'm using E6000 and hot glue to bind everything together. At the very top, I'm going to add in this nest. I bought a whole bunch of these from Amazon a while ago. I'll link those down below. I added in a little bit of extra Spanish moss so it matches what's in the cups on the sides. And then now I'm going to just come in with one of these little eggs. I like to snip the egg a little bit, add glue inside of the egg, and then come all over the outside of the egg. That helps it all lock on there really well without the eggs just popping off. Since it's just kind of a waxy plastic, they pop off really easy. Now I'm going to use this paper pad from Maggie Holmes. I love this paper pad. It's called Garden Party. I'm going to link that down below as well. But I'm going to cut out a couple of these tags. This is a beautiful paper pad for the springtime and the summertime. And then I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dile. You guys, did you know the Crop-A-Dile is actually meant for eyelets? I use it all the time here on my channel for so many things, but it's actually used for eyelets. That was the whole reason why this thing was invented. So we're going to use it for eyelets today to show you that you have more purposes than just one. So you've got the 2 different hole punches and the eyelets that you can see here in my container that I'm putting onto my tags. You can rotate around these black squares. Did you know that? They like rotate around. and then you can customize it to the size you need for your eyelet. You clamp down and it creates this adorable tag with an eyelet on it. Then go ahead and wrinkle up that bigger tag first, and then just thread them all onto some twine. And then now I'm going to attach these little tags onto one of the handles of the teacups, and you have the most whimsical, adorable home decor piece to display in your home. I love finding huge signs like this that once upon a time were super trendy with these crowns on it, and then turning it into something new and updated. This sign is a great quality, and I'm going to pair it with this printable that you can find over on my website. I've got lots of free printables over there. I'm going to link my website down below if you want to check it out and get that printable. But what we're going to do is we're going to start by painting the sign with one coat of white paint, and then we're going to use this Crackle medium paint. We're going to pour that on, a nice thick coat of it, and it's going to look really glossy once it dries. That's good because that means that you have a nice coat on it. And now I'm going to come in with a kind of a medium gray, and I'm going to just add a nice, you can see how thick it is that I'm putting this on. I'm going to add a nice thick coat of it, make sure it's really dried, and you can already see the effect starting to happen. Because what happens is as the paint dries, it starts to crack and separate from that Crackle medium that we put on first. Now we're going to repeat it again because I want to have a very rustic looking board by the time I'm done. So now I'm going to come back in after putting on a second coat of that medium, and now I'm going to add on blue, and you can see, look at the texture on that. It is so beautiful. We basically sped up the process of that crackled paint over years and years and years. So what we're going to do now is we are going to cut out our stencil, trace it on, and we are going to fill it in. This is the quickest way. I feel like using these stencils. You could go and purchase a Cricut, and I'm not telling you not to. If you have one, that's awesome. I have a Cricut too, but a lot of the times you have to pay for the vinyl and it takes time to download those things. I'm giving you this printable for free, so it's really easy to just cut it out, trace it on, and then paint and fill it in. So now at this point you can see that my first branches, I did staple those to the board. I want them to stay on there nice and strong. I added in some more greenery, some more of the florals. These are poppy florals from the Dollar Tree. And then I found these really beautiful stickers that were in the home section at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the one that says grateful. And I'm going to just center that right in the middle since we are grateful for the Savior and what He's done. And then at the end, I'm going to just add on a bow at the top, and it has come together so beautifully. Our supplies to make the carrot cake are 2 different size containers from the Dollar Tree, some carrots, some caulk, and some spackle. You're going to need to take your smaller container and you're going to put some hot glue all the way around that rim and then glue it to the bottom of your larger container. Make sure that they're centered before the hot glue dries and it locks into place, because I almost had it happen to me. So make sure you shift it around and get it into place. And then we're going to remove the lid off of our spackle and use a silicone spatula to apply it to the container. Now, funny enough, this just worked out really great that the glitter on this container actually allowed the spackle to stick on there even better. It had something to hold on to. So it wasn't such a terrible thing that that was on there. But we're going to go ahead and just continue to smooth it out all over it and just keep playing with it until you get the texture that you would like it to look like, so it represents and resembles frosting. Once you've gone all the way around the bottom one, come up to the top and continue to just work around that smaller upper layer of your cake. Now we're going to take some water and smooth out any spaces that might need some smoothing where it looks a little too rough. I just like to just dip my finger into a cup of water next to me, and I just keep playing with it until I get that consistency of frosting. Now at the very top, I decided to shift some of the spackle so that I can make sure that the carrot bonds well to the container, and that way it really locks in there and stays on without falling off. At this point, you can see the rims of our little cake we're making. They look a little raw, they look a little rough. So we are going to now take the caulk, and I'm just going in a swirling, simple motion to create this frosted edge. Now, a fun fact about me and my family, my mom, being as crafty as she is, when she was younger, before she had kids, she decided to take a cake decorating class, and then it became one of her side businesses that she would do growing up. So my mom actually made wedding cakes, I mean, whatever you can think of, and we always had the coolest birthday cakes because my mom had this skill. So we're now going to do a really simple stroke with our caulk to create more frosting. You're going to push it out so it balls up into a clump and then drag before you release the pressure. That is going to create a really beautiful motion in the frosting and make it look like a real cake. So I'm just building up all the frosting around those two top layers and then around the base. You can see that I pulled out parchment paper because we want to make sure that that caulk is going to dry without getting stuck to something. So once you've gone all the way around, everything is dry. I honestly just let it dry overnight, so I didn't have any issues with it. You then can come in with some white paint and just simply paint the entire thing white. This is going to make sure that you're locking everything in. It looks really good, and at this point it really does look like frosting. Now we're going to pull out some flax seeds and some Mod Podge, and we are going to create that nutty look on the side of a carrot cake. I like to just pour my Mod Podge into my lid cap, and then I'm going to only focus on the sides of the cake, not where we put the caulk. Okay, here's a fun fact, friends. I know that eggs are super expensive right now. Did you know that flax seeds are a substitute for eggs? You add some water to it and it gets the same consistency as an egg. So look it up online. I'm actually borderline vegan. I'm 100% vegetarian, but borderline vegan. And so flax seeds is a substitute that I use when I bake. So look it up if you're having a hard time finding eggs. I thought it was funny to kind of mention it. So you can see that I went all the way around the cake on the top layer and the bottom layer. And now I'm putting in that hot glue and I'm just nestling that carrot down in there. And now, at this point, I've decided to make sure that flaxseed's really bonded on there well and it doesn't rub off over time. I'm going to come in with one more layer of Mod Podge and I'm going to put one more layer of that flaxseed on there. This is going to create a double layer, really locking it in and making it look high quality, and it's going to trick a lot of people when they first see it, thinking that this is a real mini cake. Now at this point, once I've gone all the way around, doubled up that flaxseed on there, you're going to want to just let it dry, let it do its thing, and set it to the side. But before I walk away from the project, you want to make sure that the caulk that you did around it to make it look like that frosting detail, you want to make sure you just clean it up some. So we're going to just take a wipey, wipe off anywhere where the flaxseed or the Mod Podge might have accidentally gotten on it, and then come back in with the white paintbrush and just clean it up a little bit. This is going to make it look really finished and polished. I love a good finished project because this is when it really starts to come to life. Also, I wanted to share that when I'm done, I always like to wipe out the lid, making sure that there's nothing in there. And it also keeps your Mod Podge from getting too goopy where you can't close it and open it very easily. And then just screw that on. And here is the finished look of our carrot cake. I was in the Dollar Tree and I came across this little muffin tin and I just had a fun idea. I decided to take that tin outside and I spray painted it white, and while it was drying, let's pull our supplies out. I'm going to be using these realistic tulips. I'm going to link them down below. They're from Amazon. Some of the Spanish moss, some little lavender florals, and then these round foam circles. I'm going to cut them in half and put them down inside of my tin muffin pan once that paint was dry. We are going to turn this into a little spring garden where it has this really adorable farmhouse look, and we're going to bring some color in. I know that it has been the trendiest thing for so long to do very neutral colors. Trust me, I love my neutrals too. But in the springtime, I need color in my life, especially when you're coming out of a winter. And maybe it's just the fact that I love flowers and I love gardening, but I just had to do this project where we have some really beautiful pink tulips with some beautiful purple lavender. Oh, anyway. So what we're doing is I'm just cutting down these tulips to be a little bit shorter, and I'm sticking them down into these foam pieces that I cut in half and used E6000 and hot glue to glue them to the tin pan. So it got a real good bond to the pan. I am creating these tulips at different heights. On the back 3 rows, the tulips are a little bit higher, and again, they're all different height. That's what makes it look like a real true wild garden, an English garden, almost a cottage garden. And now I'm coming in with that lavender, and I'm just being really whimsical with it, not overly stuffing these, because that is what a cottage garden looks like. It's just all wild, and it just brings in that spring happiness. So now I'm going to come in with my hot glue, and I'm going to glue on that Spanish moss. Now we want to still see that this is a muffin tin, so it has that farmhouse country look. And I'm just going to tuck that down in there enough where you can see that it's a tin pan. And once I've got those all in there and tucked around, I can do so many fun things with this. You can add little eggs if you wanted to, maybe some little bunnies if you wanted to. I'm going to just stick with my garden look, but I hope you give this one a try. It is so affordable and so fun to imagine with. We are going to be grabbing one of these little party cups. Take your Crop-A-Dile and punch 2 holes in it. This is such an easy craft to do, and it turns out so beautiful. Now you can see the Crop-A-Dile goes through it really easily without having any issues of it cracking all over the place. Go ahead and punch 2 holes on the opposite side. Take it outside, give it a little bit of paint if you want to keep that color. Now I'm showing you that if you want to do something else, you can Mod Podge whatever tissue paper or napkin or textbook on this, and then you can decorate them however you want, and you can make darling mini buckets with whatever you want inside of it for whatever season. This is such an adorable craft that can go all year long. I love using these little cups. Now you can see here for mine, I'm going to be Mod Podging on some of this text paper from a book that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to just simply distress around the sides. Couldn't you imagine this with maybe some different tissue paper for the fall or for Halloween or even something for the summertime? And you can put all sorts of things inside this as a base of maybe a little tree or some pumpkins or some florals or a little nest, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm just adding a circle on the bottom so you don't see that cup on the outside unless you want to, like I said earlier, paint it and have that color. Now I'm going to take some wire, I'm going to loop it through those holes, and I'm going to simply just twist it into place. So now we have our darling mini bucket. Now, if you have gone to high-end decor stores, they have items like this. And I giggle every time because they sell items like this for like 15 to 20 bucks. Friends, we are doing this for just pennies. It is so affordable to make these yourself, and you can make tons of them because if you buy the pack of cups, they have like 10 cups, I think, maybe 8 cups inside of the pack. So you can make a whole bunch of these with different things. You could even like make these and put these on a Christmas tree. Like how cute would that be for decor? So now I've just put inside some Spanish moss, and I'm coming in with some of these mini eggs from this Easter garland that I had on hand. And I'm going to just snip a little hole in the bottom of the eggs. That way so that it really bonds well in there. Then I'm going to sneak in those little tiny eggs. And I thought I would dress up the front just a little bit more to give it that vintage farmhouse flair. And I'm going to just glue on this little number 3 since there's 3 eggs inside of it. And on top of it I have 3 children. So I thought these are my 3 little baby eggs. And now I'm going to just take some black paint, do some distressing, and paint that number 3. And there you have it, a beautiful decor piece. Let's grab one of these bowl packs, this low dish from the garden section, but it's still that plasticky feel just like the party section, and then some of these tumbling blocks. Now I will say that I saw a video a while ago from Mother Time who came up with a similar idea to this, but we're going to make it our own. But I wanted to make sure I gave a shout out to Mother Time because I just adore her. I think she's so talented. So let's make sure we give her some love and attention too, right? Now we're going to be taking, this is where mine's going to vary and be a little bit different. I'm going to be taking my stacking blocks and I'm going to do 2 by 4. So that means 2 wide and 4 long. So you're going to see here that I'm just using wood glue and hot glue. Now it is so important to always get our adhesives right because if we don't, things just break. I would not use E6000 on wood just because it needs that wood locking component because that is what binds them together. Yes, you could totally use E6000 if you wanted to, if that's what you have on hand, but the wood glue and the hot glue is going to be so much stronger. So you can see here that I'm just stacking up those 2 wide and 4 high. And then once I've got all of those locked and glued into place, I'm going to go ahead and take that, and now I'm going to add on, because we're going onto plastic, that E6000 and hot glue. So again, we're going to try to lock all of this together with the right adhesives, and the hot glue is going to help hold the wood down, and the E6000 is going to go in between those cracks that we added that wood glue to make everything lock in and stick to the plastic. Adhesive is so great, especially when you get the right adhesive for the right project. Now I took it outside and I spray painted it black, and I'm going to add on a little scale at the front of it, and I'm going to go ahead and link a printable down below if you want to get a hold of the scale, but I just basically just googled vintage scale faces and you can find any face that you would like to put on it. And I'm now going to take some of my brown paint and we're going to distress this to make this look a very vintage farmhouse. You can skip this part if the rust idea is not for you, but I love the charm that it gives it. So go ahead and take some cinnamon and just sprinkle that wherever you put some brown paint. Now if it gets to the point where you feel like it's too heavy, too dark, too much rust, all you have to do is just let it dry, brush some of that off, and then you're going to come back in with a little bit of black paint and you just simply dabble it on the spots where you want to add back in that black paint. I actually like the effect when you add black paint on top of the cinnamon. It really gives it even more of that rusted look. I think it looks so great. It's just, I don't know how I think, but you do whatever you want to do at this point for your scale, and you can paint it whatever color you'd like as well. So now I'm just simply tying a bow on it, And now you can put whatever you want inside of your scale tray. I have been wanting to make this wreath for so long, and when I saw this bunny at the Dollar Tree right now for the springtime, he comes in a pink jacket with a teal bike and then a teal jacket with a pink bike. You have two different options. So I grabbed that sign and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the moment. We're going to make this carrot wreath that I've been wanting to make forever. So we're going to start by taking our tan ribbon and we're going to wrap it around the whole wreath form. And I believe this is a 18-inch wreath form. I think that's what it is. So I'm going to just wrap that around, making sure we have a nice finished wreath form so we don't see that wire. And then the little twine hook that was on the bunny sign, I'm going to repurpose that to hang up the wreath on the back. So I just glued it into place and I'm coming in with some of that extra ribbon to have a nice clean finished look on the back so you don't see that hot glue. I really love finishing my projects. I know I say that a lot here on my channel, but I really do. I just feel like that's when it looks like it came from a store. No one would ever know that you DIY'd it. So I'm going to now position my sign, and it is going to have a little bit of a lift, and we're going to fix that with something in a second. But we're going to get those first two carrots down so we know the positioning of our bunny, where it's going to go, and then where we can start building our carrots out and around. Now, because these carrots have a little bit of that angled look to them, they're thicker at the top, thinner at the bottom, they work perfect on a wreath form. You just keep gluing them in a line, going all the way around until you get to the other side. And then when you get all the way to the other side, we are now going to work on our bunny sign. Gluing these carrots on was so much fun. And I used about 7 packs of carrots. So once I got my last carrot on and in place, we're going to move back over to our bunny. And you can see here that I hot glue gunned on 2 zip ties. I used a ton of glue to make sure it was on there really well. And then I just set it over there to the side to make sure it was drying and it is going to be locked into place before we zip tie it. You want to make sure the glue's dry before you try to zip tie. So while I'm waiting, I'm just going to take some of this greenery that they have at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to fill that in behind the carrots to make it look fuller, to make it look more luxe and just high-end looking. And then once the hot glue was dry, you now can come in with that zip tie, tie it nice and tight. I will recommend try to make sure your zip tie locks are facing up so that they don't scratch your door. And after that, you have a beautiful high-end looking wreath for $12. Our supplies are going to be these 6 terracotta pots, the word Easter from their wooden letters at the Dollar Tree craft section, 6 popsicle sticks, as well as some foam, and then 6 of these eggs that we're going to be using, and we'll be having some pattern paper on top of them. But you're going to keep a 7th one so that you can use it to trace onto that pattern paper and get the exact size we need. Once you have all your supplies collected, go ahead and take those popsicle sticks and the 6 eggs and glue the stick onto the bottom center of the egg. Once those are glued all together, get your foam squares and you're going to cut them down so that they fit nice and snug inside of those terracotta pots. I like to add a little bit of glue on the side so it sticks to the pot, and then a little bit on the top so we can stick those eggs down inside that foam. Make sure your eggs are all at the same height, so play around with them before the glue dries. And then once it is dry, take some white paint and go ahead and paint the egg, the stick of the popsicle stick, the inside of the pot rim and the outside of the pot rim. I just use a smaller brush on that rim, and I just take my time going around making sure I have a nice clean line. Then you're also going to paint your letters Easter the color white. Once everything has been painted, we now can move on to our pattern paper. So we're going to need 6 different pattern papers, and my tip that I like to do with my pattern paper whenever I'm working with smaller things I'm tracing, I always like to trace the shape first. I like to stick in a corner, and then I try to cut a nice clean straight line so that it's easy to store this extra piece that I'm not going to be using, and it doesn't get all crazy in your paper bins. Once you've got that egg cut out with you tracing it around with the wooden egg, go ahead and continue to move on to all the other colors until you have everything cut out. Now we're going to take our hot glue, and you could use adhesive on this, but I just feel like the hot glue is much more cost efficient with this one. And we're going to go ahead and just put that on and use a popsicle stick before it starts to dry and just smooth it out underneath that pattern paper. Now we're going to take some scissors, and we are just going to rough up that edge. The size of the paper already fits on the egg, but I love how it brings out that white undertone on the paper and makes it look more farmhouse. Then go ahead and take your letters and glue them on, and make sure you get your pattern paper in the colors that you want in the order you want, so that you don't later on accidentally glue the wrong letter to the wrong egg pattern paper. So I like to figure out which pattern in order I want them to be for my sign. Now go ahead and take some more hot glue and put that all over the inside of your pot and add on some of your Spanish moss. And then I took some of this really cute white ribbon in the ribbon section at the Dollar Tree, and I just tied a simple little bow, putting that at the bottom of the egg. And then again, I say it on here a lot on my channel, I love buttons, especially at springtime. I don't know why I love buttons so much, but I think it reminds me of my grandma. My grandma had a big tin of all these buttons, and so did my mom. My mom had a big mason jar. So I'm going to use these teeny tiny buttons. You can get these at Joann's craft store. I went ahead and just put that right in the center of the bow. And now I'm going to get a very dry brush of brown, and I'm just going to help enhance those letters a little bit more so that they really stand out. And this is our finished look of the project. This project is so easy to do. The real trick is getting the glue adhesive right. So go ahead and take some of these little hors d'oeuvre cups that have almost a rectangle look to them, and we're going to need 2 of them as well as 2 of these cake platters. I am using E6000 and hot glue. I only had white E6000 on me, so it's not clear, but we're going to be painting this. Now you're going to notice that I'm putting some nice gloppy gloops, that's what I'm just going to call it, big dots of this stuff, so that as I'm putting them together, it wants to blend into each other. And you're also going to notice that I'm not letting the hot glue and the E6000 touch each other, because the second that it does, that hot glue starts to dry super quick. It cools down and then it doesn't bond well, so don't let them touch each other. Then I took it outside after I had let it dry for a little bit. I spray painted it this vintage gold color, and now I'm going to take some of these doilies, and you're going to see that we are going to have a harder time putting a doily on the bottom tray. So I'm going to use another one of those cups that we used for the middle of that stability for the tray, and I'm going to just trace it right in the middle, make a line to cut in, and then cut around that square in the middle, and guess what? It fits on there perfectly. And now you can put whatever you want on it for whatever party you're going to be hosting. I'm going to be using this $5 plus item from the Dollar Tree. This is so awesome because I was actually getting ready to DIY something and then I found this one, 2 of the packs of the carrots, and then some burlap. We are going to take off that carrot on the front and put it to the side because we can use it for a DIY on another day. And then this bow, oddly enough, this thing was stapled on and ready for a war to break out. I mean, this thing was so sturdy on here that I couldn't pull it off, so I actually just had to cut it off. And then we're going to take some burlap. I always like to double up my burlap so you don't see through it. And we are going to glue around 3 of the sides and lay it down to create a pocket on the front of the bunny. Now, a couple years back, there were a couple of different home decor stores that had this exact look where the bunny has a little pocket on the front of it and it's got some carrots and some cute things in it. And those decor online shops were charging a ton of money. We're talking over $100 for that front door decor piece, which is crazy. And we're gonna make ours for right around $10 and save ourselves a ton of money. So once you've got your pocket glued on, and make sure you leave enough room to be able to actually tuck the carrots in. You don't wanna glue it down where it's super flat. You're gonna just come in with your carrots, stack them in there where you want them to be. And then on the front, where that little flat part is to help the bunny stand up, I glued 3 carrots there as well. Now I want to beef up that greenery a little bit because I think it just makes it look more fuller, high end. That's really when things start to go from being a Dollar Tree product to looking more high end when you fill it in, make it look fuller. And then where that bow was we cut off earlier, I'm going to come in with a beautiful big tan bow, and this was from the Dollar Tree as well, this ribbon, as well as a lacy bow, which is also from the Dollar Tree. And then to add a little extra personality, we're going to put a green button, which I picked these buttons up at their front checkout area. They always have little buttons up there. I love using buttons in my crafting. Leave a comment down below to let me know if you like using buttons like I do, because I put them on a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that button into place. And then what would this cute little bunny be without a little farm sign of some kind to say how much his carrots are that he's willing to sell to you at his little farmer's market stand? So we're going to just add a little 25-cent tag, and I get these little tags in their floral section and sometimes their garden section around springtime. You get, I think, 4 or 5 of them in a pack for $1.25. So I just went ahead and painted that on there, 25 cents for his carrots, and we're going to sneak that down inside, and we saved ourselves at least $90 DIYing it ourselves. I imagine this next project being used at a lot of different parties, especially like weddings or baby showers. We're going to take one of these little fluted glasses, and we are going to take one of these beautiful textured bowls, again, all in the party section, and we are going to use our E6000 and hot glue and lock them all together. Don't forget to put E6000 where the base and the neck of the fluted cup come together. Then I took it outside and I spray painted it black, but you can do whatever color you want. And then I'm just going to simply tie a bow on it. You can skip the bow, you can put some greenery, you can put some tulle, again, whatever color you might want. And then after that, I'm going to just line it with a little doily tissue paper, and then I'm going to add in some candies. Wouldn't this be so beautiful on a table at a party? I think this is such a warm, welcoming gift for any guest that's coming. For this craft, I'm going to show you how to get around something that you think is cute, but you don't necessarily like the colors. For these carrots, I think they're really cute. I love a good carrot. Obviously, they're trending right now at the Dollar Tree, but I don't like the yellow. So I've decided that I'm going to paint them. I'm coming in with a darker orange, almost a burnt orange first, and I'm just going to paint all over them. And you can see that I'm going to pop them off of those stakes that they're on. And I came in with a second tone, a lighter orange, and I'm just bringing in different textures and different layers, because as I'm bringing on that lighter orange on that dark orange we painted first, it really brings forward that burlap and it looks so cool. So after I got them all dry, I removed the painter's tape from the top of the little grass pieces. I glued 3 of them together, wrapped some twine around it, tied a bow, and then I'm going to just simply add a little green button because I think that really plays up the green on the foliage of the carrot. And after that, these are so cute on a bookshelf placed in your home. If you're enjoying this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it each and every time you do. And if you are looking for more inspiration, don't forget to come by Instagram. I post stuff over there daily, and I'm always sharing sneak peeks of what I'm working on in my craft room. Now this project is a little more advanced, but I promise the steps are so doable and it's so fun. It really is just that there's just more steps involved. So we're going to take some of those carrots from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint them the 2 different tones. Some are going to just be a brighter orange, and some gets the 2-tone with the darker orange and the lighter orange. You can see I'm dry brushing that on a little bit. And then I let those dry really well. And you can also see that I didn't want to get any paint on that foliage on the carrot. So I just wrapped some painter's tape around it. Do be aware that that is a tissue-y type paper. So when you pull it off, just pull it off slowly. Now I'm going to take 2 of these Valentine's Day signs, and I'm going to just put some hot glue on a paint stir stick, and I'm going to just put that right down. Can you see? I almost got that hot glue on my hand. I cut out the audio, but I went, whoo, that was close. When that fell, it almost got my hand. And then to reinforce it, I used my staple gun, but you don't have to do that. I just like using my staple gun. Now I'm going to take a piece of white burlap, and I'm going to cover the back up. And then on the front, I have a double piece of burlap. It's doubled up. And I'm making sure I put that spool of twine underneath it because I wanted to make sure it was enough spacing in there, because we are going to make this really cute decor piece that looks like a giant bag of carrots. So I made sure there was some spacing in there that I can tuck my carrots down into so it's not too tight. I glued on the sides of that burlap. I folded it down a little bit at the top, and now I'm going to bring her on the sides, and I'm just going to tidy it up. I'm going to just glue everything down so it looks like a nice big gunny sack burlap bag. And now I'm going to make it look a little more full by stuffing in some of this batting that I have. And at this point we can start decorating our bag. These carrots have these shish kebab sticks on it, which are perfect because it lets you stake it down in there. Now you can see that I use the larger carrots and the smaller carrots. When they all come together like this, it's so cute. I was dying inside. I was so loving making this project. Now at this point, I wanted to take it up a notch, so I put in some of this Spanish moss, or this dried grass, whichever you want to call it. And I'm just going to tuck that in all around the carrots. And now I'm going to take some of that white twine, and I'm going to wrap it around about 3-4 times and then tie a little knot. I just love the way the twine wrapped around it makes it look like it's an actual farm storage item that they wrapped tight to close it up. Now this is a fun technique. Getting a piece of drop cloth fabric and using the stickers from the Dollar Tree, you stick them on and you pounce on your paint. You tap, 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 tap. And you can see here I'm kind of cleaning up the line a little bit. When it dries and you remove the letters, friends, you just made yourself a cool sign using fabric and paint and stickers. Now I decided to rough it up quite a bit because this is going on my cute bag of carrots. I wanted to look all farmhouse. And you can see that as I was ripping it, it started going into the T. it actually ended up turning out so great. Sometimes you have those happy accidents. We're having a Bob Ross moment, I guess, a happy little accident. And I'm going to just simply take that part that got ripped. I'm going to tuck one part underneath that folded over part of the burlap, and the other part's going to come up over the edge. It looks so cute. What a happy little accident. I was so glad it ripped the way that it did. I did panic for a hot second, and then I ended up realizing that it looked so cute tucked the way that it was. So now I'm going to take a black and white gingham ribbon, and I'm going to just glue that on and double it up. I want to have a nice thick ribbon, so I made 2 of these. Gluing that on. Oh, I get people asking about my ribbons. At the end of this video, I will make sure I link my ribbon video. I did one a long time ago on how I make ribbons. And then I added on a green button in the center to play up that green in the carrots. And now I'm going to come in and dry brush all over it, some brown paint to make it look all weathered. And then on the back, add a rope, add some fabric to cover it up and make it nice and clean and tidy. And you've got yourself the cutest decor piece for this spring Easter season. I love an oval frame, and when I saw this one, especially at half off, I snatched it right away because it reminds me of the frames that you can get on Main Street at Disneyland. You know, where you have your silhouettes cut out and they put them in these frames. So I picked it up because I had a cute idea I wanted to try for Easter. Start by taking off all the screws and the backings of the frame, and we're going to take it outside and give it a coat of flat white spray paint. Once it's all dry, bring it inside the house, and I'm going to do a very light dry brushing because I do want it primarily to show the white, not too distressed on this one. I'm going to just lightly go over it to bring out that really beautiful leaf detail on the side of the oval frame. Once that's all done, I'm going to pull out my scrapbook paper, and you can use any scrapbook paper you would like. This collection of scrapbook paper is from My Mind's Eye. I got it a while ago. I know some people have still been able to find it, but it is a past collection. But they have beautiful bundles of scrapbook paper at Joann's, and you can use lots of coupons there. So once you find a pattern paper that you like for a frame like this, you are going to make sure you rip it out. Take your time ripping it out so it doesn't rip funny. I always like to pull from the top corner, and then I just keep pulling down until it completely releases from the adhesive band on the side. And then I'm going to just simply trace around my frame that I had as the backing piece, and then we're going to simply cut it out. Now I like to do it this way just because trying to freehand cut this just takes way too long. Tracing it is so much easier. And because I don't really care too much about those little nubs at the top of that frame piece, I'm just going to cut those off because you're not even going to see it. Add some adhesive to it, and then go ahead and add on the paper and rub it down nice and smooth. You want to make sure it's really bond well to this backing piece because we're going to glue on the bunny, and the bunny's going to have some weight to it, which can pull the paper away from that backing piece. So once you've got it all adhesived on, go ahead and put it all back together, add back in your screws, and add on a darling bunny from the Dollar Tree, and you have got yourself the most beautiful high-end looking frame for Easter. Sometimes we have Dollar Trees where we cannot find the newest trendy stuff, and I decided to share as well for those friends who aren't always able to get a hold of everything. I want to make sure I'm being cautious and aware of you out there if you're wanting crafts and being able to still do things for the holiday. So I'm going to show you how we're going to take these 2 wire candy cane forms. I know these were pretty popular and most stores had them because these are a really old item Dollar Tree's been carrying for many years. So we're going to take 2 of them, flip one upside down, and you saw how I brought it together, and now we're going to use 5 zip ties. Now my trick with this is I don't start locking everything in really tight until I get all 5 of them on there, And then at that point, I start tightening them to hold them in place. Because as you're putting it on, sometimes things are shifting, and it just makes it easier when you keep it loose until you're ready to lock it all in super tight. Now I'm going to take a piece of drop cloth, and we are going to just pull that fabric around really tight. I know the back side of this looks really terrible, but you're not even going to see it because we're going to be covering it with our mesh ribbon. I think that's what that stuff is called. Leave a comment down below to let me know if it's called something else. If I just botched that name, I'm sorry if I did. So we are going to take 2 of these greenery stems from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to glue those on first. It does make it a little complicated as you're trying to wrap around this mesh ribbon because you're having to move those things around and they are bumping it a little bit, but I promise it's better to glue them on first and then put on the mesh ribbon because you don't want to see all that yucky glue down there. It's just not a very finished look. So once you've got your yellow on first, I put that yellow on first because I just wanted to beef it up. That's just my preference. If you have a ton of orange, go for it with the orange. I used about 3 of the orange meshed ribbon, and I wish I had a 4th. I think if I had a 4th, I probably would not have used the yellow, but again, you can see that yellow will work too. So you can see here also I'm using a popsicle stick. That is because that hot glue will seep through that mesh and it will burn you. So just keep that in mind. And then I wrapped some twine around it. I came up to the top, I tied a knot, and I really did that because I just like that farmhouse look. I also feel like it's going to secure it and lock all of that mesh ribbon in place, and I think it looks pretty with the twine on it. I don't know, that's just me. You could skip that part if you don't like it. And then we added on the bunny that they have at the Dollar Tree, and we're adding on some beautiful bows. I love doubling up my bows. I just think things look more, it just looks more high-end when you put these double bows on it. I'm going to add on a beautiful peony pink flower, and I'm going to add in some of this eucalyptus, just tucking it all in and making it look so just beautiful for spring. Now on the back side, I'm going to take a Dollar Tree nautical rope, and I'm going to hot glue that on and then get some of this extra fabric that I have here sitting to the side. And I'm just going to put that right on top so it's all locked in and glued in place. They have these beautiful canister jars, and I loved the size of this glass. Now we're going to put that lid to the side because we're not going to be using that on this project, but I love this glass jar because jars like this are super high-end at super expensive high-end home decor stores. So I'm going to show you how we're going to get that look without having to pay those ridiculous prices. This jar was $1.25. So go ahead and take your painter's tape, and you can see here that I've got probably about 1/3 of the jar at the bottom that I'm going to be leaving exposed. But from the rest up, the other 2/3, I'm going to cover that up with some painter's tape, take it outside, spray paint it a beautiful crisp satin white. Once that is nice and dry and you took off the painter's tape, go ahead and pick whatever floral you want. I'm going to be using some of these Real Touch tulips because I just love these things. I'll link them down below, but I just get mine from Amazon. Go ahead and gather them together in a cluster. As I work with them, I like to kind of zigzag the stem a little bit. That makes them look more realistic and falling all over the place in that beautiful jar we just gave some life to. Then go ahead and tie on a beautiful bow. I'll link this ribbon down below. I love this ribbon too. I'm going to be using one of these wood plaque signs. The staples on the back, whew, this was really stapled on. I had to pull pretty hard, so you could just cut it off with scissors if it's giving you a hard time too. I flipped it over, removed the twine, flipped it back over, and then I cut down a piece of white burlap. I get a lot of people asking where I get my white burlap. I pick mine up from Joann's. I always go back to the back of their store. It's usually back by all the upholstery fabric and stuff, because a lot of people use this for upholstery. So I picked up some of that, glued it on, tacked in some push pins from the Dollar Tree, and you can see here that I lined up tongue depressor sticks, and I'm going to use a Sharpie marker, and I'm going to just simply make a line coming in at the end so we can make the shape of a carrot. Now I'm going to use some dull scissors. Don't use your good scissors on this part, and I'm going to cut right on those lines. And then make sure you do not see that black Sharpie marker. I just flipped my popsicle sticks over so that you don't see that part. And I glued them down. Once you've got those glued down, take some orange paint and some water, mix those together so it becomes more of an orange stain, and then paint your carrot. And now I'm adding some greenery up at the top and a beautiful blue bow. I love this ribbon. I'll link it. I picked it up on Amazon. I'll link it in my description box below. And then I'm going to add a gingham ribbon that's blue from the Dollar Tree. And after this point, I wanted to make that white burlap stand out a little bit more. You could skip this part, but I really felt like doing a wood stain, which is basically just water brown paint. And I'm just going to go over that so it soaks into the wood to make it a little bit darker, and that the burlap will pop out and shine more. I found one of these plastic boxes with a lid, and I knew we could turn it into something super special very easily. So we are going to take the lid, and we're going to take the big bite, and you can use a drill on this, but the big bite is so much easier to use if you have one on hand. Go ahead and punch a hole right where you saw that plastic circle in the middle. Now you're going to see that it does a great job at making a hole without cracking it too crazy. I love using the big bite for this exact purpose because it gives you that longer reach than what the Crop-A-Dile can do. Go ahead and take a darling little knob of whatever kind you want. I picked these knobs up from Amazon, and then I'm going to just add some washers to it. Screw that on, and with a different color paint on it, you have the most beautiful, easy DIY box. This candy dish comes in several different colors. I grabbed the clear one because we are going to be taking this outside to spray paint it white. Now once we've removed all the stickers from it, it's ready to be spray painted, and you can honestly do whatever color you want, but I'm going to do it white so I can get that farmhouse look. Now I'm going to be taking these large oversized tongue depressor sticks that I pick up from Walmart, and I'm going to figure out the width of the round band that goes around that candy dish. And I'm going to cut these popsicle sticks so we've got that bump at the top, and it's going to give us that scallop effect on this container. Now as you're going around, you are going to need to cut one down a little bit thinner so it can fit on the back. If you use popsicle sticks, it will give you a smaller scallop, and it will also allow you to probably not have to cut one down like this. So it just depends on how thick you want your scallops to be. Now I'm going to be using, I like to call this wood ribbon. I found this on Amazon. I'll link it down below. Oh man, friends, this stuff is so much potential to craft with because it's like a ribbon, but it's wood. And so you can stain it and do all kinds of fun things with it. I'm going to be going around my candy dish twice to create that darling farmhouse bucket look. This is going to look so cute. Simply start by adding some glue and then just wrapping it around. Now it does want to not fully lay flat when you're going on a curved edge just because it's wood, but I just keep manipulating it and working with it and gluing it down, and I get a nice laid down flat look. Once you've got it in place, go ahead and cut off the extra. And now we're going to take some water and some brown paint, and we are going to do a beautiful faux stain on it. I like to make sure I covered those inside scallops, and then on the very bottom of that little candy dish, I made sure to match the paint so that it matched the bucket, but I kept the stand part white and did a little distressing on it. Now we're going to take some foam, and you can put anything inside of it you want, but I decided to go with a beautiful floral decor inside. So I just popped in some foam, and now I'm going to add in some of the Spanish moss, and then I'm coming in with some Real Touch tulips. I will link those down below. I get these from Amazon. They come in so many colors, and they really are all the hype that everybody is talking about. I love these things so much. So I just popped those down in there, gave them some beautiful display at different heights, and then added on a garden tag that I think has such a farmhouse flair. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this beautiful Happy Easter Cottontails Farm Fresh egg sign. I'm going to be using some ribbon, this large 18-inch wreath form, and then a whole bunch of different florals. Most everything is from the Dollar Tree except for the really large peonies. I got that at the end of a Christmas sale. They have a little bit of frost to it on the floral, but you don't really even notice it when you bring it all together, and I got a killer deal for them, so we're going to use those two on this project. We're going to start by taking this burlap lace ribbon that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just simply wrap it all the way around the whole wreath form. I like doing this because it makes it so much easier gluing your florals on, because you're not going to struggle with these holes and them falling through or having to zip tie anything. So I'm just going to coil that all the way around. It's not going to be able to reach all the way perfectly around. It gets real close, but we're going to cover that up with a bunch of stuff so you won't even notice it. Now I'm going to take my sign and I'm going to put the zip ties on the bottom side of the sign, and I'm going to zip that right onto that wreath form, and I am going to just make sure I get both of them in place before I zip tie one side too tight, because then it makes it hard to get the other one on. So just get it in place and then start to pull it tighter and then snip. And I push those little square pieces back down underneath so you don't have to see those. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a bow. Now you can see this is the easiest way to make a very big loopy bow. I'm zigzagging back and forth 4 times. I make sure that there's a tail on each end going the opposite direction. And then I take it and I'm going to just gather it right in the middle and tie it around in a knot. That's it. There are so many people who use all these different tools to make bows, and you really could do that if you want to, but this works the same. I'm not kidding. Like, you're going to see in the end, I'm going to have this beautiful bow on here, and it was just me zigzagging back and forth with some ribbon. So if you're not great at tying ribbons, give this a try. Like, this is a really easy one to do. And then I'm going to just pull a zip tie through it, and I'm going to put that around my form itself, and I'm going to use that to be able to zip tie on there so that I don't have to worry about hot gluing it on and making a mess with all that hot glue. And I'm just going to get it in position and then tighten it. Isn't that just the easiest bow ever? So once you've got your bow on, go ahead and fluff it out, and look, all we did was zigzag back and forth and tie a knot. Isn't that just the easiest bow ever? And if you want to make more loops, you just keep zigzagging, or you can double up bows. That works as well. Now I'm really slowing down this wreath process because sometimes I go a little fast with these, and I know that there's a lot of beginning crafters who are looking for some spring inspiration. So I'm going to show you at this point how I build my florals. I get a lot of questions how I come up with my color combos. I really wanted to bring out all of those beautiful spring colors, especially on a front door. I just think that's a place where you really could put a lot of color. So I'm doing a softer peony pink flower. Then I'm coming in with a darker pink peony flower, almost like salmon pink color. And now I'm coming in with some tiny little daisies. I think that these are so beautiful. They bring in that yellow and that white. And at this point now I want to definitely bring in some more yellow. So I've got these smaller flowers. I think this is supposed to try to be like a ranunculus. Honestly, I think like the way that it looks, I think that's what they were going for at the Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to come in with some of this Salvia delphinium. I'm not sure what this flower exactly is supposed to be, but it has that same long look to it. So I'm going to just glue in a couple of those. And now to bring in a little more pop of color, and since there's a bunny on this, I thought it would be so pretty to work in some really bright orange carrots. And then I'm going to come in with some ferns and some of these little mini roses. Friends, I wanted to show you in this video how much fun it is to layer and layer and layer. And that's what makes a gorgeous wreath. When you see wreaths at stores that cost like $200 or something crazy like that, it's because they're super layered and have all these different colors and florals. And you can get that look with things from the Dollar Tree. So on those ribbons, I came around the backside and I just kind of zigzagged that ribbon down, longer on one side, shorter on the other. And now I'm going to do that same loopy technique that I did earlier for my ribbon. And I'm going to do that with some orange gingham ribbon. Now I'm going to come in with a button because I just love buttons. I mean, have I not been doing that in quite a few videos lately? You can skip over the button if it's not your thing. But I'm going to add on a button, and then I'm going to add on a little bit of twine right in the middle of that. And all of these together they make me so happy. I hope you give these techniques a try. I really do. On the backside, don't forget to add on your rope. And I always like to unfray the edges just a little bit to give it some more of that locked in security. And then to clean it up, I like to take some fabric, glue it over the top of it, and then I just trim around it to make it look really clean and high-end finished. For this project, we're going to be taking 3 of these crates and 4 of these tall glasses. Now, do you remember those tall candles? They have started selling the vases without the wax candles in them, which is so awesome. These are actually over in the floral section and over by the home stuff, like the home decor things. So it could also be by those candles that have the picture of the Savior on it. So go ahead and tape off your glass at halfway in the middle of it. And while those are outside drying, because I spray painted them white, we're going to go ahead and take these 3 boxes and we're going to glue them together. Once I've used some wood glue and some hot glue, because we want to make sure we're using that wood glue in there too for that long-term hold, I went ahead and took some dark brown paint and I'm going to just brush that all over my box. This is going to give such a beautiful farmhouse French country look to it. Once that is all dry, and as well as the glass jars, go ahead and take off that painter's tape, put in some foam. I glued everything down in there, even, yes, the glass jars, because I'm not going to really put real water in this. I'm just going to always put faux flowers, and I have cats in my house and I don't want them to knock these over. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue down in some boxwood and some Spanish moss, and then inside these glass jars I can display some beautiful florals for whatever season and switch it out all year long. head to your local Dollar Tree and pick up some foil, or if you have it in your kitchen, that works too. Grab some ribbon that are orange colored for carrots, some greenery, some painter's tape, and then some ribbon that you're going to use to tie for bows at the end. I took my foil out and I pulled about 4 or 5 times so I can get a nice loose ball of foil. This part does not have to be perfect. You can see how rough I'm being with it. And once you've got enough, go ahead and rip the foil, and we're going to start to smash that down into the shape of a carrot. Now, I heard you all loud and clear, and this is the reason why I came up with this idea. Some of you were telling me that you can't find carrots at the Dollar Tree, and this you can find. Everyone has foil at their Dollar Trees because this is something that is carried all the time. You probably even have it in your own kitchen right now. So go ahead and smash that foil down into the shape of a carrot, and you can make these however big or small you want to make them depending on how much foil you're using. You can see here at the end, I'm going to just go ahead and use the table to smush it around, to smooth it all out. And once you've got everything nice and compacted, you're going to go ahead and take some painter's tape, and we're going to just go over that whole thing. This is going to lock everything in, and it's going to allow you to be able to work with the ribbon even easier so it can glue to the painter's tape and not have any issues with it not sticking. So once you've got everything all smushed down, you're going to have, if you're using the box from the Dollar Tree, 4 large carrots and 1 smaller carrot. So it just, again, depends on what size carrots you want to make. You can make a whole bunch of little carrots. It's all up to you and what you want. So now we're going to take our ribbon and we're going to start coiling it on, starting at the end of the carrot, the pointy part. And you can see right here, I'm doing a fold back, because what happens with ribbon when you're going up something that's thinner versus thicker at the end, the ribbon is not going to want to keep laying flat like you want it to. So I've learned this trick over the years of crafting with ribbon, that when you're coiling something up that gets thicker towards the end, you're going to want to put little dots of glue as you're going along, and then when you get to a point where you see that the ribbon is not aligning the way you want it to, you're going to take that ribbon and you're just going to fold it over, and that's going to allow you to be able to continue rolling all the way up that object you're trying to get your ribbon on without there being any weird gaps and the ribbon's looking really messy. And I just keep doing this. I'll fold forward or I'll fold backwards as I'm going up the carrot with the ribbon. So once you get all the way up to the top and you've made it nice and tight on your carrot, you're going to go ahead and take your scissors, cut off where you want it to be, and then at the very end, we're going to just put a little bit more glue and we're going to wrap it around about 2 or 3 times up at the top and then glue that in place. Now the reason why we're going to have this extra part up here at the top, because now we're going to put some glue down in there and sneak in some of that greenery that I cut up from a pick from the Dollar Tree, and then we're just going to smash it all down. And at this point we're going to take some yarn that's orange and we're going to just wrap around and around and around until we get it nice and tight and you get it to the look that you want. You could use twine for this too, that could be really cute too. And then we're going to just tie a double knot and cut off that yarn that is too long. And then just add some bows and you've got yourself the cutest decor piece. And even cuter is if you put it on a tray with a wreath and a bunny inside the wreath, and then the carrots spread all over that tray. What a cute spring decor piece. I found this beautiful sterling silver candy dish, and you can use it for candy, but I wanted to show you, don't pass things like this up. Watch how we're going to transform it with ketchup. Now, a couple of days ago, I did a clean with me video in my craft room, and a couple of you noticed the ketchup bottle and asked me why I had ketchup in my craft room, and it was because you can use ketchup on metal items like this. You're going to put a nice thick coat on it, and I let mine sit for about 15 minutes. You really could let it sit longer. Most people say about an hour, but I wanted to show you how after about 15 minutes it already starts to take off that tarnish. And I'm going to show that a lot of people recommend to use a toothbrush, which works. But I was okay with a couple of scratches because I wanted this to have a rustic charm feel. I didn't want to take off all of the tarnish, so I decided, instead of the toothbrush, which would get in all those small crevices, I took a smaller piece of a sponge from my kitchen. Now this is the before again, and this is the after. And this was after about 30 minutes. I'm kind of impatient when I'm crafting, so I didn't want to wait the full hour. If you want to get all the tarnish off, definitely wait the full hour and then stick with the toothbrush. So once I had it all cleaned, and look at it, it is just so beautiful. And they sell pieces like this in home decor stores for ridiculous prices. Look at how we transformed it with ketchup of all things. So I've got this little nest here. I added in some Spanish moss, and I'm going to take some of these eggs from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just roll it in a robin's egg blue. And then once those are all dry, I'm going to go ahead and take a toothbrush. Again, this project has a lot of toothbrushes in it. I'm going to flick on some black speckled paint so they look like robin's eggs. When they are dry, go ahead and take the 3 of them, or however many you decide to put in your little nest, and nestle them all in together. Now it's darling at this point. We could leave it like this, but I decided to give it more of a vintage look by having a cute little scrolled paper. It says "Spring has sprung." And I'm just going to kind of rough it up a little bit to make it look more like a vintage banner, kind of swerving around the eggs. So I'm just going to take anything I can find to kind of quill the side a little bit, roll it up, rough it up, and then after I get it to the place that I like it, because again, remember, we want it to look like it's flowing and waving, then you can go ahead and glue it onto your egg. The more you play with it, the better it starts to look. So I'm going to go ahead and just glue that right on there. And you could skip this part if it's not for you, but I just liked the extra personality it gave this little nest. Once you've got that glued on, I'm going to add in some sprig of flowers and some leaves. And then at this point, it's really starting to come together. I wanted to also give it a little bit more distressing to go along with that silver tray that has the tarnish to it. And I distressed the little banner. When I think of French country, I always think of crate baskets, the kind that you would put apples in, the kind that you would use on a farm. I just love these kind of baskets. And today we're going to learn how to make one really easy, really affordable. We're going to take 2 of these hoop rings from the craft section at the Dollar Tree, and we are going to take some of these jumbo tongue depressor sticks that you can get from Walmart. Go ahead and figure out the length that you want the basket to be, how tall, and then go ahead and cut off all the sticks going all the way around the smallest ring. It'll look like a little sunburst, just like this. Then we're going to start taking each one of those sticks and we're going to start to glue them on. The heat from the hot glue is going to warm up the stick, which is going to allow you to be able to press it down and to curve it around that circle band. So just hold it into place until the hot glue dries off, and then once you've gone all the way around, you're going to notice there's going to be one spot on here that is just a little bit too big for the spot. If you come across that problem with your sticks that you have, it's not a big deal. Just go ahead and take that stick and cut it down from the width of the stick. So you can see here I'm just splintering right up it. It is going to want to crack a little bit, so just keep your pressure going in the same direction and move your scissors around until you've got that width that you want. Go ahead and glue that one into place, and now we're going to work on the top band. Now, because this is a basket, it's going to need that pressure to be distributed at the top. So we're going to glue on the first stick and then go to the opposite side and glue on that stick on the opposite side of the ring. Then we're going to go the other direction. So just think north, south, east, west. We're gluing them across from each other to distribute that pressure from the bands that are stretching out from those sticks. Keep repeating that, going opposite ways until you get all the way around the crate. Now, if you don't like that there is these openings from the crate, you could always come in with more sticks and fill that all in, but I love that charm of Farmhouse, which is what that looks like to me. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as is, add some reinforcement hot glue inside of that crate, and now we're going to take some paint and paint it whatever color we want. You could finish the bottom if you want to use this to actually hold objects in it. I would recommend using some foam core. Go ahead and take your basket, and you can decide at this point whatever stencil you would like to use on the front. I am going to be using this beautiful French type design where it's a bumblebee and a beautiful wreath of leaves. Go ahead and take your time just patting that paint in there, and once it's all done and dried, go ahead and lightly distress. You can see here I'm coming in with some brown paint, I'm rubbing it in with my hand, and just keep moving along. In the end, you've got yourself this beautiful crate basket for your home. I thought it would be so much fun to create a sheep decor piece. So we're going to use some black felt, a wood round from the Dollar Tree, some yarn, a wooden square frame box, and a craft stick. Start by drilling 2 holes on your wood round right on the sides. This is going to be the leg of our little sheeps where our legs meet into the body. Go ahead and remove from the back side the staples, the twine, and the hang-up metal piece on the back. And then we're going to figure out how long we want the legs to be on our little sheep. Go ahead and cut that down. Make sure they're the same length, measure them, cut them, and then after that we're going to glue them into the wood round. Now I like to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue for the short-term, long-term hold. So first I put in some wood glue on one side of that hole, and then I came in with hot glue on the stick on the opposite side. I'm going to wedge that down in there, wiggle it around, and it is going to have a very nice lock in there for you. So this has got a nice high-end finish. Do both of the legs, and then at this point we can start turning this into a darling little sheep, with it being that spring, summertime that we're always all so excited looking for ideas for. I'm going to take this yarn and I'm going to keep coiling it around and around, come up onto the side and over onto the back to finish the back side. I love a good finished project. So go ahead and keep coiling it around. Take your time because this is an easy way to get hot glue on your fingers and burn yourself. So just make sure you go all the way around really slowly. And then when you're done, make sure to fluff it up so it looks fluffy like a sheep. Then we're going to take those legs and we are going to add some hot glue into that box. And we're going to just glue those into place and hold it there until the glue dries. Now we're going to sketch out the sheep's head. It's kind of an oval shape with 2 oval ears coming off the sides. So once you've got that sketched out on a piece of paper, go ahead and cut it out. And then once you've got that cut out as a template, lay that onto your felt and cut it out from your felt. This is such a fun, easy project to do, and it really does have that French country farmhouse vibe to it. Go ahead and cut it all the way out and glue it right in the center of the sheep's body. Isn't this so whimsical and cute? I just can't even. This little sheep, he just makes me so happy. Then we're going to decorate the inside of our garden box so it looks like our sheep is standing out in a beautiful field. Go ahead and take some Spanish moss, add some glue into your crate box, and then just glue that right down in there. We don't need too much because we want to be able to add in some florals as well. And I'm going to just be using this beautiful lavender floral that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then for a little extra special touch, I took one of these library tags, and I'm going to be using the paper pad from Maggie Holmes, her garden party collection. And I'm going to cut out the little tag that says Happy Day because this just makes me so happy, this little sheep. I'm going to cut that out and glue on into our metal library tag holder. I know there's an official name for this thing, but I don't remember. I'm so sorry. Leave a comment down below if you know what these little tags are called. And then just go ahead and glue that down into place. Clean it up. Can you tell my hands are totally calloused? I can touch hot glue pretty easily without getting burnt. I just always move it around real quick. In the end, you've got this charming little decor piece that is so perfect for the spring and summer. Now we're going to be taking some of these clothespins that I found on Amazon. I'll link them down below. I love them because they have a vintage style to them. Some of these safety pins and a whole bunch of fabric. Growing up, we actually had a clothesline in my backyard and my mom used it to save on electricity. I have good memories with these clothespins and I thought it would be so fun to turn them into a collected item that we can use for a decor piece that gives us that farmhouse French country charm. So go ahead and take some strips of fabric, all different fabrics, and then wrap them around onto the clothespins. Now, fabric shops back in the day would have things like this, so you can sample the fabrics and look at them, and that's what it reminds me of. So go ahead and just wrap a whole bunch of different fabrics, textiles, ribbons, lace, whatever you want to wrap on them. Add a little tiny dot of glue to lock them into place, and then we're going to come in with some safety pins and lock that into place with the safety pins. And really it's just to get that farmhouse look with the safety pins being on them. I'm going to add on some brown paint to give it a rusty old look. Now let's talk about this idea for a second because you're thinking, Heidi, this isn't that inventive. But one of the reasons why I love the farmhouse look is the collections that people bring together. So whether it's a whole bunch of little clocks, a whole bunch of little watches, all clustered together inside of a cloche or a bowl, it gives you that farmhouse collection look. So doing this is so fun because when you put them together inside of a dough bowl, it's such a beautiful thing to put on a shelf in your home to decorate with. I hope you give this one a try. For this project, we're going to be taking an old mason jar that I found at the thrift store, some carrots from the Dollar Tree, some Spanish moss, and then one of these garden tag signs that I feel has a very farmhouse flair to it. Start by taking that Spanish moss and tucking it down inside of the jar, and then go ahead and just fill in that jar with all these different size carrots. Once you've got those all nice and filled in, take some of your gingham black and white fabric or ribbon, tie it around and glue it into place, and then we're going to take the stick off of that garden tag. I'm using a white gel pen and I'm just writing the word bunny treats on it, and then we are going to take that little tag and glue it into place. Once it's glued into place, I felt like it still needed a little something extra, so I tied a bow out of that gingham fabric and glued that on. I like to leave the jar open so you can pull a carrot out for a bunny treat. And then I still felt like it was missing something, so it was time to add a cute little button, and that completes the look. These tiles have been so popular from the Dollar Tree, and there's all kinds of projects out there, but I wanted to do something special with it today that I hope you'll give a try. Go ahead and cut off that outer flat rim. That's going to release the adhesive strip on the back side. We don't need that adhesive strip, so go ahead and cut all the way around the tile. Remove the adhesive strip, and then we're going to paint it 2 coats of white paint. I'm going to come in with my brush just real quick. Make sure you smooth out the paint around those bumpy edges. It'll take longer to dry if you don't. I'm going to use my heat gun in between those 2 sessions. I'm going to dry it, come back in with some more white paint, and then dry it once again. Once everything has been dried and it's nice and white, go ahead and take some brown and black paint combo, and we are going to dry brush across the surface. Now this is the part that's really popular, everybody's been doing, but we're going to turn it into something really special. Once you've got that texture nice and raised and it just has that farmhouse French country look, go ahead and take that tile, once it's dry, flip it over, and we're going to fold it into almost like an envelope. Fold down the sides, making sure they overlap a little bit. You're going to have to make sure you kind of push past that one line detail on the tile to get a nice fold. And then we're going to glue that into place because we are going to be making a darling pocket to put some florals or whatever you want to put inside of it, honestly, for your doorknobs, for a hook in your house. It's going to be so cute when we're done. Once you've got that glued into place, go ahead and cut it in half, or you could leave it long. You could use this in a kitchen and put all kinds of wooden spoons in it. Oh, that could be so cute too. I like to use some popsicle sticks at the bottom because this is going to help it lock into place since it's got all that texture and bumpy grooves in it. Go ahead and put 2 popsicle sticks on opposite sides of it once you get that hot glue in there. And then go ahead and use some clips, these crafting clips that I use here from the Dollar Tree, and then just clip right onto that wood popsicle stick. That's going to help it lock into place all that glue in between all those little crevices. Then go ahead and remove it. Punch 2 holes out. I'm using my Crop-A-Dile, and then I'm going to feed in some wire here, and I'm just going to simply twist, twist, twist until I get all the way around, coiled up the handle part of this wire. And then I'm going to come over onto the other side and do the same thing so we can create a nice hang-up wire on this darling, darling tile little hang-up basket. I think these are so cool because you can fill them with all kinds of stuff, especially if you keep them long and not cut it in half. Like I said, you can fill it with wooden spoons. You can fill it with so many fun things. And you can make it even bigger and thicker depending on how many tiles you want to glue together. It's all up to you, and the options are endless. Now we want to make sure the pocket stays open, so go ahead and put some paper towels, glue those down in there, and then I'm going to come in with some Spanish moss. I'm going to glue that in there, and then after I've got my Spanish moss all glued in, now you can decide what florals you want to use. For the spring and summertime, I just think it's so beautiful. These lavender, salvia, floral stems that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue a couple of those down in there with the 2 different tones of purple. And then to give it that farmhouse flair, I'm going to take one of these little wooden garden tags and I'm going to glue that right onto the front. This is such a beautiful way to get the look, and it's so cost friendly. Head to the Dollar Tree and pick up 3 rolls of aluminum foil, and I am going to be starting with first the body of the lamb. We're going to break this apart by the different limbs and the different body and then bring it together, which I felt like was the easiest way to show how to make this. So take 1 roll of aluminum foil, and we are going to take the whole thing off the roll and start to compress it down into the size of a lamb's body that is sitting on the ground. So go ahead and start squishing it down where you've got a neck, you've got the hump for the spine and the bottom, and then you've got it flat on the bottom where it's laying on the ground. Now I like to use a small hammer so that I can compress all of the foil, and I just keep hitting it, pounding it down until I got this shape all in place. Again, you can see the neck, you can see the spine in the back, and then you can see over on the other side where the arms or the legs are coming out and resting on the ground. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the hind leg. Go ahead and take about half of the foil from one of the rolls, the second roll, and go ahead and start to form it into almost the shape of a rainbow. You want it where it's rounded on one side, flat on the other side. I'm going to use my table to help get that rounded shape, and then I'm going to start making sure that it's not higher than the spine on the body of the lamb. And now we're going to start focusing on the foot. At this point, it's going to start to look a little bit like a music note where it's skinny on one side and rounded on the other side, and we're going to continue to just hammer that down until we get that shape. Keep putting it all into the upper rounder part and then the flat part where the foot is. Once you've got that all nice and hammered in and you've got the shape that you like that looks like a back hind leg, and you want to make sure the foot is nice and compressed and skinny like a lamb's foot would be, go ahead and take a pair of pliers and then press down where that back knee joint is, so you get that crease line in there for the lamb's leg so that you can see that that lamb's foot is in there and it's not just one big bump. And then go ahead and just keep checking it, making sure that it looks right on the lamb's body. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the front legs. I took a piece of foil and squished it down into almost like a round cylinder shape. Now I'm flattening out one end really flat, And then the other end where it was rounded and a little bit thicker, we're going to fold that in half so it looks like a lamb's leg that's tucked underneath itself when it's sitting down. Cats also have legs that are like this when they lay down. They like to fold where their knee is and they tuck it in. So in general, look at pictures of animals so you can see how it folds back. And then you're going to go ahead and just check it at the front of the body, up where the neck side is. Now we're going to do the other front leg, and this one is going to be coming more straight out. If you look when animals lay down and sit, they typically will curl up their hind leg into their bottom area. Their front leg, one will usually tuck underneath them, and the other one pulls out forward. So we're just making sure we get all of the legs in place. And once we do, and everything is starting to look like the lamb laying down on the ground, just keep playing with it. This is the reason why foil is so great. You can use it over and over again, and it only costs $1.25 for this roll of foil versus, you know, something that's really expensive to work with. Now you can see here that I have all of the legs in place, and we're not going to worry about that fourth leg, the back leg, because it's tucked underneath the lamb's body. Now we're going to go ahead and start working on the head. I'm going to say, in my personal opinion, the head is the trickiest part because you don't want it to be too big and you don't want it to be too small. And you have the component of the ears. So I could recommend probably doing the head itself and then doing the ears separate, but I felt like that might make the ears a little bit weak if it wasn't connected to the head. And I want to make sure we're making something that's really substantial and lasts forever as an heirloom in your family. So you can see here, I've got the part rounding forward of the nose, rounding back at the back of the head, and then I've got the ears that I'm bringing forward. It almost looks a little bit like a spaceship, like a little Star Wars spaceship, but this is kind of the shape that I came up with. You've got the rounded forehead, you've got the nose and the snout, and I'm just using pliers and my hammer to get all of these shapes. And then you've got the inside where it's hollowed and pushed in. That's so that the head can connect into the neck. Now foil is tricky. It does not like to be stuck together other than being crinkled. So we're going to use a couple things to help try to bring it together. I'm using E6000 and hot glue for a short-term, long-term hold. But even that is not super strong because, again, it's foil and stuff is not meant to stick to this. I'm going to also use some of these sticks to help cut them down, hold the pieces together, just so that I can get them together long enough so that we can come in and put painter's tape all over this to make one unit. So at this point you can see that I'm just gluing on the legs, I'm getting everything in place, and then now I'm going to come on and put on the head, and I'm going to just, again, use those sticks to help stake things down in there to make them stronger, sturdier. Once I've got that all on, I wanted to make sure that the head and the neck looked a little more uniform. You can see that it's a little skinny in there. Almost looks a little bit like Baby Yoda. So we're going to go ahead and take another piece of foil and fill in that back side of the neck to help make it one better unit and look smoother in there. Once we get the painter's tape on, you're going to see that this is going to start looking exactly like a little lamb's body. I also decided that I wanted to make it a little bit chubbier, so I went ahead and put a little bit more foil on the back side of the lamb. And you could accomplish this when you're first doing the lamb's body, but I just decided that I wanted to make sure that I had it a little bit chunkier. I just liked the way that it looked. Now I'm coming in with my painter's tape. At this point, you're going to see all of this work starts to become completely worth it because it is going to start shaping into the lamb. I'm just taking the painter's tape, wrapping it as tight as I can, and I'm using small different pieces to get that shape and not lose the shape of the lamb's body. Isn't this just such a fun technique? You can make whatever shape you want using foil and painter's tape. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this technique, and I wanted to show you that with some imagination and being willing to try and some patience, because this is definitely not a knock it out in 1 hour kind of project. This probably took me about a day and a half to do because of all the different drying components. So now I'm coming in with caulk, and the reason why we're putting caulk on is because we want to get it to the point where it feels like plaster, or it feels like clay or ceramics. So I'm just smoothing it out with water. I let it dry overnight, and look, friends, we have created a little lamb's body. I will also say I didn't show it, but I made sure I made 2 little holes for the nose and a little line for the mouth. Now at this point, with everything being dry, I first came on with a coat of white paint. This is so that everything's locking in. And now I'm going to come in with a very light gray. This is because we're going to build up and feather on paint to give it a beautiful textured lamb look to it. That coat that they have on it, that's so beautiful and soft. So I'm going to come in with some brown where there are some shadow spots on it. A very, very light creamy brown. And now I'm going to come in with an off-white cream. And at this point, I'm just dry brushing it on. I don't want a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm feathering that on with my dry brush. Don't overly saturate it. All the texture that you put on with that caulk from earlier is going to give it that look of it being a textured like coat. Make sure you're drying in between, but don't keep it on one spot too long with your heat gun so that it doesn't have any issues with bubbling or have any issues with burning it. Now I'm coming back in with white at the very end of all of those different colors, and I'm making it become our white Lamb of God. And now I'm going to just dry brush on a little bit more brown on the bottom sides where you would see under the snout. Anytime you see some creases, I'm just bringing that out a little bit more. Now I'm going to say, out of everything that I did, the thing I felt like I struggled with the most were the eyes. Because honestly, friends, I feel like I can make pretty much anything. I have so much fun crafting, but every time I go to eyes, I always struggle. Even when it comes to sketching and drawing, I have always struggled with eyes. I've had art teachers for years always make fun of me. They're like, Heidi, you can make a lot of stuff, but eyes, you struggle with eyes. And I just do. So maybe that's your skill. Eyes are not my skill, but this is kind of what I came up with. And even afterwards, I'm like, I'm going to play with that a little bit more, even after I'm done making this and showing you all here today. So I'm sure I'm going to change the eyes on this, which is fine because I'm just going to paint it back white again and start over because I'm picky like that when it comes to eyes. Anyway, I went ahead and painted on some eyes. I'm lessening how bright they are. And now I'm putting on the crown. I just used some little greenery wire, wrapped it around into a crown type shape, and I'm gluing that right onto the head. And this is the reason why I made the ears a little bit lower, because I wanted to be able to put that crown on. This wire, I will link it down below. It's my favorite vintage looking wire ribbon. It has this silky satin look to it, or raw silk to it with wire in it. And so it looks very vintage, which I love it for Easter time. I went ahead and tied on a beautiful bow. And then at the last second, I decided to add on a bead garland because I felt like it really just brought it to life even more. I like to focus on more of the greenery versus the thorn crown. I'm not really a big fan of the thorn crown, but that's just me. Now, friends, that is it. After it's all glued on, you have made yourself a beautiful Lamb of God, and I hope you will give this one a try. I just want to testify that I know Christ lives, and I want to say how grateful I am for the atonement that he so freely gave to us to be able to redeem for our sins and return home to our Father in heaven. I am so grateful for our Savior, and I hope you will give this a try. It is the most uplifting, fun, and beautiful craft to make this Easter season. Friends, please do give this video a thumbs up and click the subscribe button if you are new or returning and just haven't clicked it yet. And until the next episode, bye friends.